Hello and welcome. My name is Scott Larsen. I'm a chiropractor at the Institute for Health and Healing in San Francisco with Sutter Health. Today's topic is working from home in the best, easiest, most ergonomically stable environment. It's a growing trend. In 2020, unprecedented numbers of people started working from home and working remotely, including kids. Remote schooling is a major shift in our culture, and I've seen a sharp uptick in work from home related injuries, both in kids and adults. And frankly, much of my clinical work is helping people overcome injuries that are basically that are occurring from living a sedentary life, sitting in front of a computer, working from home, actually, or not. Just sitting in front of a computer leads to your body breaking down, degenerating, and coming into the realization that that can actually injure you is an important topic that I wanted to convey. So sitting in front of the computer is a risk factor, and if you're doing it from home, chances are your setup at home is not like the setup you had from your office, because offices are usually equipped with pretty good ergonomic based products that help prevent musculoskeletal and overuse injuries. And when you shift to working from home, that's not there. And most people are working from their kitchen table, their couch, or their bed, which is not going to work in the long term. So let's talk about posture. Posture is not only how you sit, posture is how you move through your entire life with every different body position. So sitting, standing, sleeping, walking, running, picking up items off the ground, moving groceries from your shopping cart into your car, those all require different postures. And your posture when you're moving is a dynamic posture. Your posture when you're sitting is a static posture. And at least for today, think about how your body is positioned while you're moving through space or while you're sitting in front of the computer. Those postures can either be helpful or they can lead to injuries. And so throughout your life, as you adapt to different postures, your body shape will actually change. And if you're sitting in front of a computer, for example, and leaning forward slightly to look at that screen, your body will adapt to that over years and decades of making that same daily posture happen. Your body will adapt and shift, and that's not a good thing. Think of it too, somebody who's happy has a different posture than someone who's feeling down or depressed. And people who are anxious typically will raise their shoulders, and people who are less anxious will typically, relax their shoulders. And so, there's connections between how we think and our postures. But today's topic is to get a work from home station that can actually prevent injury or at least reduce your risk. So the rule of thumb is, regardless of how good your posture is, regardless of how good or how expensive your ergonomic furniture is, I do not want you sitting for longer than 30 minutes. I call it the 30-minute rule. So this is actually a topic that has been studied, and the study usually goes that adults sitting for 12 hours a day or more are more likely to have premature death than those who are not sitting for 12 hours. And those who get up for every 30 minutes can help prevent the negative consequences of prolonged sitting. So it's really straightforward, but if you're sitting for longer than 30 minutes at a time, your risk of death increases in the long run, and in the short run, your risk for musculoskeletal injury increases a lot. So every 30 minutes, please get up from your workstation, get up from your computer, move around for a minute or less, stretch what feels tight, get the blood flowing through your body a little bit, and sit back down and get back to work. So 30-minute rule, regardless of how good your chair is. So that the next part two is you need a dedicated workstation. So if you don't have one already, I would implore you to look around your home if you're working remotely and dedicate a space where you can do your work from. It's not going to be as ideal as an office setup in your typical office, but you want a dedicated space that you can put your items in to customize, to make it work for you, to tinker and toy with as time goes on, to switch out this or that so you can have a workstation that is kind of the foundation place for you to put your work, get your work done, and make actually a space that can be helpful, not harmful. All right, part 3 is most people working from home are on a laptop, which is fine, but laptops in my mind are a great tool to do a lot of work from when you're on a plane, but laptops are not necessarily ideal to spend the next few years or longer hunched over and working from. So that doesn't mean you need to ditch your laptop, but what it does mean is you need to get your screen at eye level. So to do that, you're going to need to raise it up. The simple way to do that is to stack it on a few books to raise up the screen to get closer to eye level. It may not be exactly at eye level, but a little higher is going to be better than lower. And then another way to do it is to purchase a laptop stand. So a stand usually made out of plastic that you can sit your laptop on to raise it up. What does this mean though for the mouse and the keyboard? Well, you don't want to use that trackpad. You don't want to use your laptop mouse if it's raised up. It's going to be really hard on your shoulders and your wrists and your neck. So you need a dedicated keyboard and mouse. It can be wired, you can plug it in, it can be Bluetooth. It doesn't really matter to me as long as you have a separate keyboard and a separate mouse. So that's going to be your first purchase. You're going to buy a separate keyboard and mouse or acquire one from your employer, however that's going to work out. Raise your laptop up on a couple books or a stand and work from a good wide keyboard and a mouse that actually kind of fits your hand. So that's really important to do. The next step is a dedicated chair. Let's talk about ideals. I know that's not always possible, but an ergonomic chair is something that is adjustable. And depending on how much money you're willing to spend, you get more adjustment possibilities. So here's some things to look for in a chair that would be considered ergonomic. Built-in lumbar support. Hopefully something that you can adjust. Sometimes it's a little air that you can inflate, or a knob that you can turn and increase the support on your low back. So that's important. Another thing is this adjustable seat height. The ideal would be your thighs parallel to the ground. So you need to adjust that chair accordingly to your height. The other thing is an adjustable arm height. So what do we want here? We want your forearms parallel to your work surface. So to do that, you're going to need to have adjustable arm height. In my personal opinion, if you can't get that, that's okay. Ditch the arm rests. Okay, you don't necessarily want to have your arms resting on something all day. If you're not extremely precise in those measurements, they can raise your shoulders and lead to shoulder issues. So that's something to think about there. And then the seat depth. So this is how big the seat bucket is. Basically, you want your legs to be between 3 to 4 inches from the seat bucket to the back of your knees or the back of your calves. So that's an ideal place to be. And again, no matter how good that chair is, even if you have to sit on your kitchen chair and it seems about right for your leg height and you're using a pillow for lumbar support, it doesn't matter if it's that or if it's a $10,000 chair that has crazy amounts of bells and whistles. Actually, I don't think that's possible to buy. Maybe it is. But regardless, the point is, don't sit in the chair longer than 30 minutes. Even if it's a great chair, you still have to get up and move around every 30 minutes. So that's the rule. Okay, and then the last piece of advice I'll give for work from home equipment to make your life a little bit easier is an anti-fatigue standing mat. So standing is definitely a growing trend. A lot of people prefer to stand while they work, and I do think it has a lot of benefits. We're not going to discuss those benefits now, but I would recommend getting a standing mat or an anti-fatigue mat that's designed to take the stress off your legs and your low back when you're standing all day. So standing for long periods of time has its own set of consequences, and you can reduce those consequences by getting a mat. They're not that expensive, and you don't need anything fancy. And in fact, you don't want anything fancy, because the fancy stuff usually has ridges and things to maybe rub your feet on. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing necessarily, but I will say that it's a potential risk for you to trip over. So if the mat has sloping angles that kind of go right down into the floor, it's going to reduce your risk of tripping and falling, and that's not something you want to have happen. It is a potential risk factor. So something made of rubber, or sometimes carpeting materials, vinyl, sometimes it's got a kind of a wood base. There's lots of different anti-fatigue mats out there, but something simple, something about shoulder width, so you can stand with your feet kind of slightly apart and then together if you need to. Not huge, but definitely consider getting an anti-fatigue mat to make an addition to your home workstation. So in summary, if you're not working from home now, you probably will at some time in the future. Dedicate a space if you can to working from that area all the time. Get a good chair that you can adjust. Get your laptop screen height up to about eye level if possible with the keyboard and the mouse. And then if you prefer to stand, I would not stand on the ground, whatever it is. You need an anti-fatigue standing mat. And those can be purchased at office stores, online. They're easy to find. Just search them, do a little research, and get one that seems to work. And it's going to save your back and your legs a lot of stress if you're standing for 8 to 12 hours a day, which is a long time. So get up every 30 minutes. Make your work from home life a successful one by not getting injured, and that's going to keep you out of your chiropractor's office and out of physical therapy trying to rehab injuries that happen from sitting in front of the computer, which are real and a major issue in our society. So good luck. As always, if you have questions, I'd love to answer them. Just get a hold of me or leave a comment, and I'll get back to you if I can. All right, thanks, and I'll talk to you next time.